Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United. Hello and welcome back to All for United. The road to 5k is on. Help us get 5,000 subscribers. Maybe you watching right now will be our 5,000th subscriber. I mean, maybe Stu's this popular that we could get another 200 subscribers by the end of this show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, join our community, and get involved. Turn those notifications on to get involved with the shows because we love seeing you guys in the live chat. Anyway, don't want to do a long intro for this because I want to get into the crux of it. But this is a brand new show. Me and Stu. It might be every week, might be every fortnight because we also don't want to sort of exhaust the hell out of this show because I think it's something quite unique and something quite controversial it'll be at times. But we want to tackle the big talking points that some may say are the talking points for clicks. Now, we don't want to do it for clicks. We want to do it because we want to be able to have adult conversations that seem to not exist in the world of social media and Twitter. Now, I'm not an adult. Stu is. Well, I'm kind of an adult, like a child in an adult's body. And I think me and Stu can have a proper conversation about this. But what's great about me and Stu is we get on really well. And although we disagree on bits and pieces, we can have a conversation about it. And that's what this show is. We're going on the record with our thoughts about controversial topics that we potentially disagree over. So our first one today, Stu, and I don't want to be like a host for these things, but obviously we needed to get that intro out of the way. And
absolutely.
Only the future would determine who's right, who's wrong, or which opinion was more valid than the other. So this show's not about being right or wrong. It's about having an opinion, which is obviously important for everything we do and important in life as well. Have your opinion, champion it, be bold, be brave with it. Our first topic conversation is going to be around the manager today.
Okay.
Is Ralph Rangnick the right man for Manchester United? Now, the caveat I want to make to this quickly, and I'm going to do some caveat questions between the both of us in a second just to clear that up, is that this is not a Rangnick out video from either of us, and neither do either of us think that Rangnick should go tomorrow. On top of that, also, Stu, you can express your opinion on this right now. Just a quick yes or no answer. Do you potentially think it's too early to judge Rangnick?
It is, yes. Way too early.
I think that's partially, from my point of view, there's partial truth to that. But also, as we'll get into in a moment, I think there's cause to be slightly concerned as well about what's going on at the moment. So again, we're all going to have our own opinions. Get in the comments with yours, hit like on the video, and let's jump into it. Stu, is Ralph Rangnick the right man for Manchester United? What side of the fence do you briefly sit on?
I like Rangnick, actually. I did champion Rangnick. Look, I was a massive supporter of Ollie, as you well know, and it got me into a lot of trouble with a lot of fans. But, you know, my opinions were always player-based, as I've been saying on the channel for quite a while. The thing for me about Rangnick is what I liked about him is he's quite disciplined. Now, we're not being shown that, you know, the way the players are playing at the minute, etc., etc. But what he would do, what I was hoping he was going to bring, and what I think he will bring, is a disciplined structure to the club, which we haven't had. Ollie was really giving it a good go. He was trying his very, very best to rebuild the myth that was Manchester United under the Sir Alex Ferguson's years. Now, I was on a show a few weeks ago, and I made a point about certain fans being spoilt through the Sir Alex Ferguson years. But I also pointed out that you can't help when you were born. When I think about Rangnick Rangnick was a coach. I think he became a coach at 25. He had a very underwhelming playing career. But some of the best coaches in the world have. Sir Alex Ferguson had a very underwhelming playing career. So did Jose Mourinho. But I was hoping that he was going to bring some structure. And I think he has brought some structure. But what I do think is, and I'll go through this in a bit more detail with you, Ben, is I don't think the players are willing to apply his structure. And that's the key element to me. So I don't think, in answer to your question briefly, I think it's way too early to tell because I don't think he's quite got the players where he needs them at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, early impressions on Ralph Rangnick, it's difficult, right? And I think the overall picture needs to be painted here for me and my own personal opinion is that over the last decade, I've struggled to fall in love with a Manchester United team. And as much as I'd always rated and loved Jose Mourinho, there was just something that went really sour with him whilst he was at United that's totally dropped him down in my expectations. I don't know if that happened for you guys as well, but personally, that happened for me. I always said when Sir Alex goes, Mourinho's the man to take over, 100%. But something happened, whether it was right man, wrong time with him, I don't know, but something just went extremely bitter. And United were in a place that I'd never seen Manchester United before because I didn't live through the 70s and some of the bad times that we've had in decades gone by, and it felt really horrible. And then Solskjaer came in on interim, and I fell in love with what he was doing. I already had an unconditional love for him because he's a Manchester United legend and just the type of person he is. And I fell in love with the team he was building as well. The fast counter-attacking football, some of the players, the personality. It looked like they cared. And then the team that he put together at the start of the season, I was convinced we were challenging for the title this year.
Yeah, I know.
And this is where we'll get into it. I really struggle with the argument that player quality is to blame, because I honestly fell in love with this team and the romance behind signing. We had a transfer window, and people are sort of forgetting this. We had a transfer window of Jadon Sancho, the brightest young talent in football. One of the brightest young talents in football, the brightest young talent in English football. Cristiano Ronaldo, who's a goal getter. He will score you goals. He's a legend. He's a Manchester United legend, despite his age. And the experience that brings. And Rafael Varane, world-class centre-back. Now, that's a great window. And with the team that we had, I just felt things should have been a lot more plain sailing, and we had some players there that could have also fitted in. Anyway, this is a different conversation, fitted into the Oddie system that he was playing. But anyway, the reason why I'm saying all that is that's where my head was at the start of the season. Then obviously things turned. Oddie had to go because it wasn't right. The results weren't right. He got caught in between too many different ideas and philosophies, and he had to go. And we needed someone else to come in who could take over on an interim basis whilst we found the right solution in the long term. Now, my issue with Ralph Rangnick, and going back to is Ralph Rangnick the right man for Manchester United? From what I can see at the moment, it's a no. And the reason why I say it's a no, and I'm that blunt about it, is because I'm very much seeing someone who is a long-term manager or a long-term strategic mindset within a football club. We've seen that because of the roles he's taken on as sporting director, etc. A guy who's got a certain philosophy in football, which we all got excited about when he was appointed.
Yeah.
And we also got excited about different quotes that came out like, it takes me 2 weeks to teach my players how to play, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, I can get them to control games. I can get them to do this. I can get them to do that. It won't take long. I think what we're actually seeing is the manager we've brought in to do all these things with the squad we've got don't mix. And the issue you've got when that is the case is that you need transfer windows, you need time on the training pitch, and you need to be able to build authority to be able to get that across and to make that happen. Now, this is where I think you come in here, Stu, and you're probably going to take this point and run with it. My issue with all of this is you don't get that time in 6 months.
Agreed.
That's the issue. And the players' mindsets are, you're only here for 6 months as well. Where do we go from here? Yeah. And that's why I don't think Rangnick's the right man right now.
I think you're right in that. There's absolutely no debate he's a planner. There's no debate he's a forward thinker. There's no debate he's a strategist. Absolutely no debate. And you're also right about one other thing. It's not a case that the players are bad players and we don't have quality within the squad. They're not applying it. Now, they didn't apply it under Ollie, and they're not applying it right now. But I take your point about, well, we've only got 6 months to do it, but you play for Manchester United, you get up every morning, you live a dream that all 650 million fans of Manchester United would love to do week in and week out. And if you cannot motivate yourself to go and do something that you were born or given a skill and a gift, and all you got to do is apply certain tweaks during a game. You
shouldn't actual game is what you're talking about. But Stu, my argument to that would be, and again, sorry, not argument, but my point to that would be, is you've got players like Cristiano Ronaldo. You've got players like, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo. You've got players like Harry Maguire. You've got players like Luke Shaw, right? who we've seen be able to excel at their natural game when the system was you counter attack, do your jobs defensively, stay stable, and then go you front three. Rashford, who was it? Martial, Greenwood, you just go.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
go, right?
Yeah.
We're now seeing a manager who's come in and gone, hey, Cristiano Ronaldo, yeah, you might be best when you're left to just lead from the front and be able to poach and score goals, and when you've got two wingers around you to provide for you. But here's what I need you to do first and foremost. I need you to press. And this is how I need you to press. I need you to defend from the front. That's not Cristiano Ronaldo's game. Then you've got players like Marcus Rashford. Again, I'm not saying that his body language is good at the moment. I'm not trying to even question his effort or his quality at the moment. But what I'm trying to say is we saw the best Marcus Rashford when he didn't have to worry about all the other things that he has to worry about now. And by the way, I've just got to say, this does go back to Ollie as well, because Ollie changed the way he wanted to play for this season, and he changed it towards the end of last season, and we all saw it. He moved, and sorry, he changed it at the start of last season as well when things went horribly wrong. He created more space between the back line and the goalkeeper and the midfield and the goalkeeper to keep us pinning teams in on the halfway line. And it didn't work. It just didn't work.
So let me touch on what you're just saying. And I just want to go back to your point about how can you tell Cristiano Ronaldo to do this and do that. Look, Cristiano Ronaldo has been playing the game since he's 5 years old. So has Maguire. So have all of our first team. They have played all the systems that are going, that are available to football coaches and football managers. They've played it all. So to go to Jesse Lingard or Jadon Sancho and say, look, today, I want you to play right on the right side, but I need you to tuck in 10 yards. He would have done that sometimes at youth level, sometimes at under 23s, sometimes at Dortmund. He would have done that wherever with England. These players are used to playing a variety of systems. And I know I'm looking at it from an old school perspective, and Rangnick's an old school manager. So I guess that's why I can empathise with him a lot more. And that is when you're on that pitch, and what you've just spoken about, by the way, about the distance between the goalkeeper, the centre halves, and the central midfielder. I've been speaking about that for a while, as you know. And Rangnick was talking about that. I was on the review show. It's really strange. I was on the review show for the Aston Villa game. And as Rangnick was talking about doing his interview, I was talking about the distance between Fred and Varane, and that the number 10s were exploiting it. And Rangnick was talking about it at the same time. And Rangnick said something. The only thing I've ever been concerned about is we knew they were going to do that, and it's difficult to defend against, but it isn't. It's not hard to defend against. It's all about communication. It's all about intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about having your head on a swivel that you can look around, or Varane saying to Fred, I need you in 5 yards, pal. What are you doing there? I need you in 5 yards. That's what it's about. And this is why I can always...
Just to summarise, carry on what you're saying, Seb, but just to surmise quickly, I think very much you're saying that Rangnick's success, or whether he's the right man for United in terms of looking towards the future, is very much going to be determined by player application.
Player application and understanding, absolutely. You know, for someone who's played the game a long time, I talk about it a lot, Ben, you know I do, but that's how I can articulate, because when I'm on that pitch, I'm constantly looking about what's happening. I'm constantly looking at my own segment, first of all. I look in my segment because I can see what's going on and I can affect what's going on immediately, okay, straight away. But then I look in other segments of the pitch, and this is where Rangnick actually looks at the game. He looks at other segments of the pitch and said, right, if we win it here, how then can I either transfer the ball out wide? Do I transition it to the right, or don't transition it to the left? Do I transition it straight ahead? He's looking at all of this, and our players have the ability to do that, but they don't. Now, you look at Villa. Okay, look at the Villa game again. Not only were we stretched in terms of yardage between our central midfielder and our centre halves, at times our centre halves were too far apart, and our central midfielders were covering the wing back positions. That just doesn't work. So you made a point actually on Twitter, Ben, which was absolutely, where's our midfield? Where has it gone? And that's where it went.
But against it, I'd argue, and I know what you're saying about player application, and we're talking about intelligent footballers here. We're talking about professional footballers. Yeah. But the space is left when Fred presses the number 10 position. So when he presses a defensive midfielder, that's when Scott McTominay ends up isolated. That's when
Agreed.
Lindelof and it was Varane stretch,
Varane,
because then
stretch.
McTominay
Yeah.
sort of drops into like more of like a sweeper third, and then you've got Dalot, who's, I'm sorry to say, by the way, Dalot, by the way, has been good, but he's a useless defender. And then
Yeah.
you've got Shaw, who again, his best premiums on being a pressing defender or a defender to sniff out danger. That's when then you're left with maybe two defenders in a back five. And ultimately, that is all because the lines the opposition have exploited, because United have pushed out and pressed. Again, I come back to it, like drop everything 5 yards and get them to hold position when the other team are in the ball. Stop pressing like headless chickens. That doesn't mean the front three can't press. Yeah, of course they can press. And I actually think Ronaldo has pressed and has pressed well. I think the issue we've got is the opposition's defensive midfielder. We don't know how to press him because we've got this 4-2-2 formation that, if you want me to be honest and completely out there right now, I'll say this as a statement and put this on the record. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in the Premier League. Doesn't work.
I get what you're saying on that. I do, but for me, the 4-2-2-2 system, whatever you want to call it, it's a 4-4-2 anyway. It's just a 4-4-2 diamond. We know it is. Now, when you've got Bruno at the tip of the diamond, that's absolutely excellent. Where I'm not going to disagree with you is you're absolutely right about space, and we don't know how to press their central midfielders, and we don't know how to press their 10.
Or plug the space.
Yeah,
or plug the space right when the press has happened.
And now I go back to application and intelligence. You're right about it, but we should know how to do this. Now, Rangnick, I think it was 1984, if I'm not mistaken, Rangnick first saw a pressing team. I think it was a friendly, my memory, Zagreb, I think. I can't remember. I've done my research on him, I can't remember. But I think it was Zagreb.
It was a Ukrainian manager, wasn't it? From what I remember, it was like some really like it was like a foreign manager. It might have been Russian or Ukrainian.
He's a Ukrainian manager. I can't pronounce his surname. It begins with L and Z.
I've got to give it a go. This show's got to have some comedy value somewhere.
I'll have to Google him then. You're absolutely right. So we saw him I think it was back in 1984, and that's where we saw a first team of pressing. He liked it and he enjoyed it, but what he wanted to do was bring in the intelligent press and not the 100-mile-an-hour press. Now, most people who look at a Klopp team, they look at a Tuchel team, it's bang, 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 bang. Hassan Huntel is not so much the speed, he's a bit more intelligent. And this Gegenpress, whatever you want to call it, it's an absolute load of horseshit, that is. It's all about the intelligence on the pitch. And this is what gets my goat about it. And this is why I think Rangnick needs the time to implement his philosophy. I agree with you to an extent about his 6 months long enough. No, I don't think it is. He's not going to come and be our manager in the summer. I believe we'll have a new manager. What he does outside of that in consultancy role, I don't know. But Rangnick's role is an intelligent press. It's not all about 100 miles an hour. It's about intelligence. And intelligence, as you well know, Ben, is where you position yourself on the pitch at any given time. And if Varane, a world-class centre-half, and I never use the phrase world-class, the term world-class, I don't, because it's never been explained to me what world-class is. If Varane cannot communicate to Fred or McTominay or to Dalot or to Shaw and say, I need you here, here, or here, there's a massive problem. And that to me is, I can't really be bothered, which is unacceptable from when you're playing at Manchester United, or I don't care enough to win this game of football.
I understand what you're saying. And again, like you've just said to me, and we're going to use this phrase a lot because I do agree to an extent there's not a lot to argue back on. But the one thing that I should say is you've just mentioned and hit on then about the quality of player.
Yes.
You've also mentioned then as well about quality of club, and then also mentioned, and I know you weren't comparing directly, but you mentioned how the presses work for a Tuchel team, for a Klopp team, etc.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't comparing directly.
No, I know you wasn't, but what I was trying to say is there's one common denominator between all of this, and that's expectation. Expectations within a system. What is there one thing that you're always guaranteed in a Klopp side? A holding midfielder that plugs that gap closely between defense and the midfield two that then go and do their job. And
5 yards.
I do agree with you in terms of that communication is important on the pitch. And I feel like there's so much negativity and clicks around the club at the moment. And from what you're reading from the leaks, clearly we've not got a happy bunch there at the moment in terms of everyone being friends and everyone being happy. But Stu, you can attest to this. If you're a footballer and you lose a football match, it's horrible. If you're a footballer and you lose consistent football matches whilst playing crap, there's nothing worse for you mentally. That's because it's your job. It's like performing awfully at work, getting constant bad reviews. The only difference between a footballer and me and you in the workplace is that we could get fired. They end up going to a different club and still ending up with a paycheck. So do you know what I mean? It is more of a mental thing that for footballers. So look, it's not me making excuses, but it plays differently to other workplaces. But we have got to remember it's a workplace for these people. Anyway, the point I was trying to get to was for Varane, and when you talk about communication and application, for these players in this system, just with the way the game's evolved since when Rangnick first brought that out. Now, I think we have to go back here and have a little bit of a history lesson. And my dates aren't going to be straightforward here because I didn't want to come in and go, hey, Stu, I've got a fact. F you, you're wrong. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to have a discussion.
Yeah.
Let's remember Rangnick's coaching achievements, if we can call them that, because they're not achievements that should get him a Man United job, but then we could argue that's the same with Ollie. So I'm not having that argument here. But what I'm trying to say is his teams that played the best football have come from a lot lower leagues into the bigger leagues and then have been taken over. And they were about 12 years ago. I think his last job that he done that with and the club that he transformed like that was probably about, was it Hoffenheim?
Hoffenheim, yeah.
Because even at Schalke, he changed the style of football a little bit, but he underachieved there massively for the squad of players they had at that moment in time. Really, they should have been challenging a little bit more for titles, I think, when they had a young Neuer and so many more players. Anyway, I'm not trying to talk about his successes, but what I'm trying to say is then here we are in 2021 when we bought him in, now 2022, obviously, bringing in a manager that clearly has a philosophy that fans are going to get excited about because he's clearly a lecturer. You know, he clearly is better in the boardroom when setting up clubs and making a difference at bigger level. So potentially he's the right man there to be involved. But as the manager of Manchester United Football Club to carry us through what is going to be a very difficult period after a guy who was really, really, really loved by fans and players alike, he's coming in with a philosophy and a system that was adapted to a game, I think, about 15 years ago. I'm not going to lie, because teams now pack out midfields, they pack out defences to get an extra man in there. It's just not working. And I think for this era of footballer as well, communication. But Stu, we spoke about this not long ago. How many teenagers now don't know how to communicate? How many people now in this world where we live in virtual and gaming and bits and pieces like that are not the leaders of once upon a time and not the people, the conversationalists of once upon a time? The game's changed. People have changed. And I think that people like Varane, when he comes out of a Madrid team and he's always got Casemiro in front of him and he's always got Ramos to his side, there's of course going to be a level of expectation that McTominay or Fred should be there. And Lindelof, again, the same. Like, he played a system over the last couple of years where he's got a shield in front of him. Probably look better than he is. Maguire, a little bit the same. So, look, my argument would be is that I just think when it comes to system and it comes to Ralph Rangnick, I think he's the right man potentially at board level to oversee footballing decisions within the club and where we go to build a new Manchester United. But the system worries me. And the 6-month thing, I just doesn't think works with a manager like him. And we're seeing signs of that.
Yeah, I'm happy to concede that Raniak's got a pretty, and I'm going to use the phrase, poor managerial history in terms of trophies, etc. And I'm also happy to concede and agree with you that he is better in the boardroom. I think the Red Bull group of clubs proves that. What did he take them over? 120 mil to what they're worth now, 1.2 billion or something like that. So I can accept that. What I don't can accept is too much on the system, and that's really because the diameters of football pitches haven't changed. The diameters of goals haven't changed.
Ask me this question then, Stu.
Go on.
Give me some positives that you've seen in the 4-2-2-2 system so far, and tell me just quickly, just as a little oversight for me and anyone watching, how is that system meant to work, and where are we at with it?
So we're not quite with it yet. The system really to work is the best position is a diamond shape. You've got Bruno at the tip of the diamond. You've got a holding midfielder, whoever that may be. I would say Matic, and then you've got two eights. That should enable the space for the wing backs to attack and provide the width. That's what should happen then for you two up front, whoever that may be, Cavani and Ronaldo. We won't talk about personnel, but that's how that should happen. Is it working for us at the minute? No. And it's not working for us at the minute is because he's utilising, I think, the wrong personnel, in my humble opinion. For me, it should be Ronaldo and Martial up top. I like Bruno at the tip of the diamond, and I like Matic at the kind of rear of the diamond, only because Matic's legs are gone and he will hold the position that's needed. I think our goalkeeper's wrong at the minute. I don't want to go into that at the minute, but I think Henderson's a better option because he commands the box, the whole 18-yard box. De Gea is a wonderful shot stopper, but that's it. He can have. And then the two wing backs. That's where we've got our problems. Our wing backs are our problems. Who are we using? Who are we utilising? You are absolutely correct with Dalot. He can't fucking defend at all, but he's good going forward. And then you've got Wan-Bissaka who can defend when he puts his mind to it, but is rubbish going forward. And then with Luke Shaw. Now, Luke Shaw from 2 seasons ago would fit Rangnick's team down to a T because he's got pace, he can dribble, and he can cross. But when you look at Shaw and Telles, if you're looking at a complete specialist for crossing in the final third, Telles is a far better player. Okay, so Rangnick's problem is he cannot get McTominay, Fred, and Bruno, to play in this system. Because Bruno, as you quite rightly say, is like the maverick of our team. He's wonderful, wonderful talent, but sometimes he hampers us. You know, I'm going to get slaughtered for this, I know, but he does. He sometimes hampers us. Whereas if you've got a player, whoever it may be, that holds that sixth position and he holds a 5 to 7 yard gap between him and Varane, and you've got a goalkeeper that covers the whole of the 18-yard area, you've got two flying wing backs. This is how Liverpool play, by the way. They've got Robertson and Alexander-Arnold and Henderson. Henderson, of all people, who people malign. But those are the three pivotal points for Liverpool. And then, you know, when you compare our front, you know, a Sancho, a Rashford, a Martial, a Cavani, a Ronaldo, we're just as good, if not better than anyone up top at the minute. We're just not utilising that space. And it comes back to, and I'm not going to say it anymore, but the intelligence. Rangnick's got to get people to understand where you need to be at any given time. And
but that's Rangnick. That's on Rangnick.
I'm just about to say, yeah. But I'm just about to tell you one little thing, Ben. When I was 8 years old, my coach got a blank piece of paper. He drew a football pitch on it and he put lines and squares in segments all the time. And he told me where to be at any one time. So when I'm on that pitch, as I said earlier on, I look at segments, where I need to be at any one time and where I can transition that ball. Fred has been playing the game at a much higher level than I have all his life. So is McTominay. But we haven't got that. They don't have that mental ability to do it.
And it's always been my argument when everyone drops a Chris Smalling into a conversation.
Thank you. I think you're absolutely right there.
Chris Smalling, if you wanted someone there to hold a position and potentially defend one-on-ones, maybe, he'll get 9 out of 10 right, 8 out of 10 right, maybe.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to play on the ball, good luck. And literally that's the difference. And that's where intelligence comes in. I agree with you, by the way. Can I just spin back? So on personnel, on the lineup, etc.
Yeah.
I agree. But again, I've got to come back to it. Now, Ralph Rangnick's our manager. He's got 6 months with this side. And this is why I don't think he is the right man right now. And I keep mentioning his name. Go back to Ollie whilst he was interim manager, right? Yeah. He got the job because he went in, brought in a feel-good factor to the place, let players go out there and express themselves, and we won games. And we won most of them, or a lot of them, quite comfortably within his first 4 months because he literally went, right, defenders defend, midfielders hold your positions, play the ball through the line, attackers do your job. And everyone was thriving off of that. We then became a moments team and he wanted to adapt to become a bit more like Pep City, and it just was
Yeah, that's fair enough.
never going to work. And that's where he got caught in between a few things. But and he gave players chances. He brought Henderson in, and we looked at different side. And she said defensively, you know what's coming up now. The manager picks the players. The manager talks about the players. And although I don't like to take much from press conferences and what managers say, because they either have to stay on side or they either play the public line.
Yeah,
I've not enjoyed Rangnick's press conferences, and it's one of the reasons why I can't warm to him. He's just come out with some really weird stuff, like the way he spoke about the League Cup, the way he spoke about the festive period, which is for me a staple English tradition that
yeah,
no manager should come in. But it's just for some reason, and this isn't me being, what's the word when you where you try and put like someone's place or where they're from as maybe a reasoning to why something happened. I can't remember what the word is or whatever, but I'm not trying to be that person, but it's just
no,
weird how it's mainly coaches that have coached in Germany are the ones who want the fixture list changed and
yes,
want the festive period to be different. I always go on about how Klopp needs to shut up about the festive period. Every freaking year I hear him moan. The fans aren't moaning. He's moaning, but it builds negativity around that period of fixtures. Tuchel has butted in, and now Rangnick's come out with different things and asked us to get rid of the League Cup and asked us to get rid of the festive fixtures, etc. Henderson and Martial might have asked to leave, but I personally like. I mean, I know some people hate reading rumors and tabloid stuff, and he's just talking about a factual conversation. But in my head, I'm like, well, but Martial might not go anywhere. Henderson might not go anywhere. We all now know they've asked to leave. Why should they put any effort in on the pitch? You know, why should we applaud them and treat them the same as anyone else who's on that football pitch when they've physically gone to the manager and asked to leave? I just don't think dirty laundry like that needs to be aired again. I feel like he only brought up the Cavani staying thing to deflect away from real issues and to deflect away from people talking about his tactics and bits and pieces like that. Again, conversation we didn't need to know about. And the other thing that I'm skeptical about is his thoughts on some of the players. As you've just said there, Stu, and you've named a few. One the other night, Scott McTominay, future captain, and how he presses really well. And he is an absolute whatever in midfield, whatever he said. And another about David De Gea earlier on this week. De Gea is probably one of the best, if not in the world. The quote is, they are both in fantastic shape physically and as well on the line when it's about controlling the box. De Gea is probably one of the best, if not the best, in the world at controlling the box. No. It's about the thing he's freaking worse at.
Yeah,
and everyone knows that that's his downfall. And again, I don't know if I'm asking you for an opinion on this, Stu, and maybe just your own opinion on it. Some of the stuff he says, even if you go back to his press conference, right, I want this team to control games. What he said straight away, my immediate thing is I'm going to teach him how to control games. We're 7 weeks into him being at the football club. We're miles away from controlling a game. We get overrun every match. So, for me, the system isn't even set up to control the game. Unless you want to go back and ask Sean Dyche to come in and play a flat 4-4-2, then it might work better. A lot of it's just, it either feels like bullshit or it feels like he, and again, I'm not trying to say this, he's meant to be a footballing philosopher, doesn't know what he's talking about. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, you're talking about the professor here, don't forget.
Well, that's my point, though. And that's why I think I'm not warming to him. I'm so confused. Like this image of someone that was built up as he came in, and when he came in, he's not reaching those expectations for me. He's actually getting nowhere near it.
Yeah. So, look, press conferences wise, I couldn't disagree, and I'm not going to disagree for the sake of disagreeing either, because I don't think that's the right thing to do. There have been some rather strange things that he's come out in his press conference. The De Gea one baffled me, as you well know, but completely bamboozled me. I don't know what he was seeing, and so did the McTominay one. I made a point on the show that I think it was against Wolves. McTominay's had his one good game now, or whenever it was. Was it Wolves or Burnley? I can't remember. Burnley. So he's one good game. We're not going to see him for the next 5-6 games. And it's true. He just won't. I know he got his goal against Villa, but, you know.
Man in a match. He got
I know. Just never in a million years. Never in a million years. But Raniak's first press conference, I was impressed with. I liked him. I liked his stature. I liked his physicality. I liked the way he came across. I thought he spoke eloquently, but he has struggled with his thoughts. And I'm not gonna, like you, I'm not gonna put a dampener on his nationality or anything like that. But he has struggled to articulate, I think, what he wants to do. Now, football matches aren't won in press conferences. Press conferences is where you either like or dislike a person because it's his personality that comes out. He has got to make sure that his personality is coming out to the players. And I think slowly but surely, and it's going to be too late though, Ben. I'm going to have to say this. I'm with Rangnick, but I've got to say this. Slowly but surely, it's going to be. We're going to run out of time, but we're going to hit the peaks with about 4 weeks or 5 weeks of the season to go. By which time we could be out of the top 4 contention. What I'm seeing at the moment is a manager desperately trying to influence a group of egos. Now he should have that, and he should be man enough to do that. Because I've always been in the opinion when I've sat in a dressing room, but I don't know what it's like it for you when you were playing football. When I sat in a dressing room, I'm there listening to what the gaffer says. Usually, by the way, I'm white. On a Thursday evening, before the team was picked, I'd be sitting there white as a sheet. I've been playing every game, but I'd be white as a sheet because I until I saw my name on that board in the starting 11, I wouldn't relax. I'd be horrible to be around. But you've got to respect the gaffer. And Sir Alex Ferguson once said, "Forget the club. I'm the manager. What I say goes." And he's got to go and he's got to do that. And I think Rangnick's got the balls to do that. Has he got the players and has he got the mentality of the players to be able to achieve it? And I don't mind our system. I was devastated, disappointedly devastated. He went back to 4-2-3-1 against Villa. Unacceptable, in my opinion. I'm not.
Yeah, you can't. Again, again, something else that I was going to throw to you, not fire at you. I was going to say fire at you then, but throw to you. Okay, if you're a manager, you're trying to teach a side a certain system. You've gone this way for so many weeks now, and all of a sudden it's like revert back. Let's change this. Let's go this way.
I know.
For the players again, like.
Well, for the players, to me, that's the only. I'm going to give you a downside of Rangnick now, because.
Thank you. So, does that mean I win? Do you want to just quickly? So, Ben's no. Okay, right. Sorry,
no win. But I'm going to give you a downside. That's okay, weak.
So it's 1-0 at the moment, is what we're saying.
Okay, that's weak management, isn't it? It's weak management that the players are saying, "We don't want to play your 4-3-2. We're fed up with it. 4-2-3-1." Once he changed it back. Yeah. We got slight control of the game. But
he didn't change it back. He went to the diamond formation.
He did, yeah. Well, I actually, to be honest, Ben, a 4-2-2 has always been a diamond for me anyway. I would
agree. I would agree, though, to the point that it wasn't a diamond. It was more like a 4. How do I describe this? So it's sort of like the extra number 9 was coming back to tip the diamond with the striker, but then you had like a spare winger.
Yes, that's right.
And it was really, really odd. But again, if we go back to like Klopp's midfields and Tuchel's midfields, you had hard workers in the midfield. That's the issue then when you've got Rashford becoming an extra midfielder or Sancho becoming an extra midfielder. Like you're taking players that are wingers or completely different to
so that's
play
my other point. Yeah, so that's my other point I was about to make on the system. And you've kind of beat me to it there. So I'm going to go it's 1 each now then. Because you're talking about hard-working players. Not what you would consider to be world-class players, i.e. Fabinho's great, but, Henderson's brilliant, isn't he? But, they're not up the top of echelons, but my God, are they hard-working. If you remember Wolves, and I've spoken about Connor Cody a lot. I think he's nobody likes him because he's not the best defender in the world, but my God, is he a hard-working defender. He's completely hard-working. Neves. Hard-working.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree, Stu. But again, the one thing that I'd say to that is, so the way Rangnick's system works, yes, he potentially needs different personnel within it. I completely agree with that, and the hard-working thing that you mentioned, I completely agree with. But again, if you go back to a Klopp side, he wouldn't play Jordan Henderson on the left wing so that then he could slot in as a pressing midfielder when you're in a defensive transition. And
That is
ultimately,
true.
that's what's happening with this Rangnick system. And this is why I sort of, and again, I go back to it, and I'm sorry to bring it back up, but again, when Oddie was trying to play this more pressing formation and system, he was asking Rashford to work more as a left winger, which meant he couldn't be as direct as he used to be. So he wasn't as effective and was being asked to do a job that he shouldn't be asked to do. Same with Mason Greenwood. And this is, again, you know, this is where I sort of, I suppose I'm taking my point from. And I keep coming back to it in some ways. And this isn't me coming back to it for you, but just so that people understand sort of where I'm coming from with this. I've got 3 cats sitting up on the desk in front of me, but they're just out of shot. Like, what is going on here? They clearly love the content. Here's one here that walking across now. Lovely. You can't have a debate without a cat in the way.
Well,
That's just what happens when you work from home.
I'm allergic to cats. So.
Oh, are you? Well, there we go. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you out of the way so I win. But no, what I was going to say, just on that, this is what I'll come back to. The reason why I don't think Rangnick is the right man for the United job now is, again, because you're looking at a 6-month period where ultimately the interim's manager job is to be a placeholder and get the best out of what he has got, in my head. And ultimately, Rangnick's come in with systems, Rangnick's come in with a way of playing, Rangnick's come in with certain strengths that players need to have to fit his system. But he's always going to have to compromise. And unfortunately, as you know in football, Stu, if you compromise anywhere, you're going to get exposed. And an intelligent team will find that out. And Villa found that out really freaking quickly. Wolves found it out and played us off the park. Newcastle could see it a mile off. They're the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
Norwich, the same. So for me, that's my argument on all this. And I'm not saying Rangnick's probably not a nice guy. And, you know, and maybe his philosophy does work. He's given up. For right now, Rangnick is not the man for United now, in my opinion.
I take your point, and I really take your point about Liverpool. You're absolutely right. Henderson will be played like. But the problem is, and I know that I'm not going to get into the whole Donny debate here, because what I'm about to say, people will fire back. Well, we've got Donny van der Beek on the bench.
You're going to open a tin of worms.
No, that's right. But he's got James Milner to call upon, hasn't he? Who could come in and could play in the middle, or could play that extra holding midfielder. He's got 2 or 3 extras on that bench that can do it. Thiago Alcantara, etc., etc., etc. Even Oxlade-Chamberlain, to an extent, could go in and hold there. We've got Donny van der Beek, the lesser spotted Donny van der Beek, who I thought when he came on against Villa, again, what are you going to do in 20 minutes? He couldn't do a lot, but his touches were concise. They were thoughtful. His positioning was thoughtful, and he added an extra dimension. Just like you pointed out, by the way, about Lingard, when Lingard came on, offered us that extra piece of width. I just don't think, and it's wrong to say, because you're right about an interim manager. Look, pal, here's your squad. You work with what you've got. You get the best out of those players. I think Rangnick, if he's got any sense, he'll bring in 1 or 2 in January. I think is it Zakira we're pretty much about to close a deal with? Have I seen that?
I don't know how much I believe those reports, to be honest. But yeah, we'll wait and see. We're hoping to do a show with a German reporter over the next week or so. So we'll get a bit more on that.
Yeah. But I quite like him. He's a steal for 6 million. He would hold that stability that Rangnick would be looking for. If Rangnick gets the 2 players I think he needs, which is the one holder who can really control the play and another runner off of him, I think you'll see Rangnick's evolution.
He has to go to a 4-3-3. If he wants it to work, if he wants this system to work, he has to go to a 4-3-3.
I'm glad you said that, because I want a 4-3-3. I love a 4-3-3. It's the most fluid system, and it's absolutely brilliant. And Wan-Bissaka, by the way, would thrive in a 4-3-3.
Yeah, I agree. The only player who wouldn't is Bruno Fernandes, unfortunately, because he'll be thrown over to the left, and Rashford's going to be in trouble. But again, and it would be Sancho right and Ronaldo down the middle. But again, Greenwood as well. Like, he needs to step up as a number 9 when given those opportunities. Like, we need to go against playing these players out of position.
But I'd like to do a debate on Greenwood, actually, if you don't mind.
We'll have to. But I'd like to talk about Maguire as well. There's loads of potential talking points that we could cover.
I'd love to talk about them.
I mean, the only other thing that I wanted to hit on with Ralph Rangnick is what does the future look like then? I mean, ultimately, from what we've seen at this moment in time, Stu, and the conversation we've had to this point, we're in, you know, I think sort of if you wanted to take the opinions and put them in black and white, my opinion is that my blame actually is starting to lie more with Rangnick than the players. I don't think the system works. And I think ultimately he isn't coming in and doing the job that an interim manager should do. That's my opinion. And I think Stu's very much on the case of, well, actually, you know, he is a player, he's a philosopher that demands respect, should get the respect. The players aren't respecting him. And ultimately, they're not carrying out potentially instruction or even using their own intelligence to be able to carry out what they should be carrying out under this manager. So I think, am I right in saying that, like in terms of compromising?
Yeah,
so
100%.
Get your thoughts down in the comments. Do you want, at this point, Stu, do you want to add anything more in terms of what's been said? Because I know there's quite a few. You had quite a few bits and pieces. I'll come on to what the future looks like in a second. But anything else?
I think I've really covered it. Really, you know, throughout our conversation, we've been, I think, quite fair. I think you know, we've been quite fair and listened to each other's viewpoints, and I think we're probably in many ways, Ben, we're not too far apart from our feelings towards Rangnick. Except, you know, and I can understand your viewpoint. I can understand everybody else's viewpoint. And I suppose set in an old school way, I like old school managers. And whether Rangnick has to evolve to a modern manager, I don't know. My worry about player application is they're mollycoddled way too much. They're looked after way too much. And I just feel that Rangnick needs better support from the players. I think that would be it. Summing up for me. I think that's what I feel.
Just a quick word on the coaching setup. A lot's been made of that. We've got.
I'm not impressed about the coaching setup at all. I don't like Amorous or Armas, whatever his name is. He failed at Red Bull in the MLS. I think he was a coach with him at Leipzig, if I'm not mistaken, before he went to the MLS. I'm not convinced at all. I would have done everything to have kept McKenna. I've done everything to have kept Carrick. I think at the moment now, the traditional link is Mike Phelan, and I don't think that's quite enough. Rangnick's having to come in now, and he doesn't understand, or he's getting to know personalities. He needed Carrick. He needed not so much Pert, but he needed McKenna to talk about personalities as well. Because football is as much about personalities as you well know on a football pitch. You don't have to get on. 12 players, 11 players don't have to get on. It's all about personalities. And Rangnick's got to understand. Now, people always talk about, well, he needs an arm around him and he needs a bollocking. I don't care if you need an arm around you. You're here to play football. You're here to play for Manchester United. I've never been that way. None of my colleagues have been that way. I'm not interested in a footballer that starts crying every time somebody shouts at him. I'm not interested in that. But Rangnick, I think, is also a victim of not understanding the personalities of the players.
Or maybe hasn't even managed personalities this big before, so it's also new to him. Which again, as an interim manager, don't want to be learning on the job. You need a bit of charisma. You need to be able to get stuck in with these people. Right, Stu.
Yes.
60 seconds on the timer. Closing statements. This is going to be fun. Do you want me to go first, or would you like to
You can go first. You can go first.
Okay. Right, I'm going to press this button, but there'll probably be a little bit delayed with me saying it, so I might get an extra second. But
okay,
ready? Here we go. Right. Ultimately, my argument is not around Rangnick the man. It's more around, or what he's done in the past. It's more around about where football is now and the needs of an interim manager. We needed someone to come in, bring this squad together to be able to get the best out of the players and push us in a direction that could be positive for the next man to come in. For me, Rangnick's come in, torn up the book. Here's what you've learned in the past. Forget about it all. Although that doesn't happen in football. Things play on people's minds. A lot of things play on footballers' minds. And ultimately, he's tried to implement a system that I just doesn't think work. I don't think it works in the Premier League. I don't think it's ever going to work in the Premier League. And if he wants to be a success at United or the right man for United for us to finish top four, potentially even go on a cup run, we have got to improve on the training pitch, on the park. That's not just with the players. The manager needs to learn quick. The manager needs to learn about the Premier League quick. None of the stuff about, oh, we're playing a physical team today, it's going to be difficult. No. Well, you play him off the park. That's what your system's meant to do. If it doesn't work, move something different. He has to get the best out of the players because he only has a short period of time to do so. And he currently isn't doing it.
Get off.
Currently isn't doing it. Right. 60 seconds, Stu. Go.
Okay. Look, I like Rangnick. I think he's the right man, perhaps at the wrong time for us. He's not going to get the time that he needs to develop the player intelligence. For me, the players have got to take the responsibility. Those are the guys that cross the line every single day, every single week. They're training Monday to Friday. They're playing matches Saturday. They're playing matches Wednesday. These are the guys that were on that pitch. If it's not going right, they've got to start looking at it. Rangnick has got to give them the power to change the game. These players are good footballers. They're playing for the biggest club in the world. For me, Rangnick, he's got the knowledge. He's got the system. It's a system I know will work. It's a system I've played in. It's a system I think is perfect for the Premier League. I do, with the right personnel. So let's give him till the end of the season and then let's see where we are. That's me done.
6 seconds to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like that, by the way. I like that, by the way.
The players need to improve, don't they? But
I know
if they had a system to get the best out of them, then they'd be playing a bit better. But that's fine. I'm happy we both agree.
So
sort of what you said.
In the comments, I think it was a draw.
In the comments, it's a whitewash for me. I think actually. No, Stu, this has been brilliant. Can't wait to do more with you, mate. Get in the comments. Is Ralph Rangnick the right man for Manchester United? You can be like, yes, but here's my concerns. That's absolutely fine. Or Ben, I agree with this. Stu, I agree with this, but Ben, I disagree. Say what you like in the comments. Come on, let's not make it personal. It's an opinion. We're having an adult conversation. Join in with that in the comments. Like the video, hit subscribe. We're going to get out of here. And I think either next week or in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about Harry Maguire.
Yes.
It's going to be an interesting one. Speak to you guys soon. Cheers, Stu.
Bye.